you just had your first teacher interview or your next teacher interview, and you're super excited. You're over the moon, super excited to hear back, and very amazed and impressed with how it went. But now you're starting to wonder, when are they going to call you? Are you the one they're going to hire? When should you send them a follow-up email? Should you send them a follow-up email? Well, today I'm going to be diving in how to create the perfect follow-up email. So that being said, let's dive in.
Hey Teacher Bestie, my name's Helena and I'm the creator of the Present Teacher Podcast. I'm a first year teacher coach, and in this podcast you are going to learn everything from simple, actionable classroom management, social emotional learning, and teacher wellness strategies. You know that impact you want to make in the classroom? Well, we're going to make it happen here.
Now, before we dive into the perfect follow-up email, I want to give you a little bit of a backstory on my personal story when it comes to the interviewing process. During my first year of teaching, I had just graduated with my master's in elementary education, and I was looking at moving from Oregon to New Mexico. I did the research that I talked about in a previous episode, and if you haven't listened to that week's content, make sure to go back because we're going to be using that research we came up with in the last content into this follow-up email to tailor it to that specific district. So make sure to go back and do that. But anyways, I did the research and I went ahead and I used the research that I discovered during that time in my cover letter and resume. Well, I got a call back. I actually got 2 of the 3 districts I applied for called me back, and one of them said that they were so amazed. It felt like my cover letter and resume was like I was reading their mind on what they wanted. And honestly, that's because I did the research and I incorporated that into my resume and cover letter, and I picked missions and values that were authentically aligned to me and made sure to highlight what was parallel and the same for both of us. So after that, I went ahead and I went to my interviews in person in New Mexico. I flew down, I did 2 demo lessons, and during both interviews, they went so well that both districts offered me the job during the interview. And so, with all that being said, since then I started sharing about my experience online. Later, a couple of years after, I went ahead and switched districts because I had ended up moving an hour away. I bought a house and I wanted to work somewhere that was closer to my house so I wasn't commuting an hour and a half each day. Needless to say, since then, I've been on hiring committees and I've started helping teachers online. In fact, one of the first teachers that I coached, she was a first-year teacher. She hadn't gotten a job right away in June, July, and it was now the end of August. And she was worried whether or not she was going to get a teaching position. The school year had already started. I started working with her, and sure enough, she ended up getting hired. Within that interview, she said that the interview felt like a dream, that it felt like everything was aligned, and that it was her dream district, and she was so incredibly excited. So since then, I've helped several other teachers around the world get their teaching positions, and one of the things I always coach them on and I share with them is the importance of a follow-up. So one of the common questions I get asked here on my free content, as well as my coaching clients, is when should you send a follow-up email? Now, the general rule of thumb is you want to follow up within 1 to 2 weeks after an interview. And a good way to get even more precise on when you should follow up is one of the questions I highly recommend the teachers that I coach ask at the end of their interviews questions when they ask you, do you have any questions? Is this question: what can I expect the next step to be in the interview process? This is the question I personally asked that got me the job offers on both interviews, which case that could happen for you, but it's also a good indicator if they don't hire you on the spot on when you can expect a callback. If you have the interview on a Monday or a Tuesday, they say they'll reach out to you Friday. It's Monday, they haven't heard back from you. That's a perfectly acceptable time to maybe follow up with them to see how it went. If you haven't heard back from them, they didn't tell you when, you didn't ask that question, a general idea is about a week to 2 weeks after is when I personally like to follow up. You don't want to be too eager and follow up the next day, but you also don't want to go too far out that districts are going to start forgetting about you and forget that, about your interview. You still want to follow up when it's fresh in their minds. So making sure to follow up within that time limit or when the time feels good to you, honestly, is what I highly recommend. But one of the mistakes I often see a lot of teachers make, and myself, I was tempted to do this, but I learned better and change my mind during my second round of interviews or during my second time interviewing for my new district is when you follow up, make sure you're tailoring specific things to that district in that follow-up email. As I said, we talked about in a previous week how to research a school district and to incorporate that into your interview. So make sure to go back and watch that because I'm going to show you how to use that research and to incorporate it into your new follow-up email. So make sure you're incorporating those things in your email as we move forward. So now that we talked about when you should send up a follow-up email, another question I often get is why should I bother sending a follow-up email? So sending up a follow-up email is a great way to remind districts that you are in fact still interested, that you are looking forward to hearing from them. And when you intentionally incorporate things from that school district, like their missions and their values, and remind them of how aligned you are, you're really reminding them that you are specifically interested in them. You're not just sending a mass email to a bunch of interviews you are specifically interested in their district and you're excited to hear back from them without being extremely clingy or attached to the results. You're showing that you were excited, but you also have other interests in mind and you're just being professional about it. Another thing is it's a great way to check in on the status of the interviewing process. If let's say they say they're going to follow up with you by Friday, it's Monday, they haven't, you send them a follow-up email thanking them for the email and the experience to get to know about their school and their mission and their values. They're going to say, oh, right, I forgot to email her on Friday. I'm going to do so now. Or, hey, we still haven't came to a conclusion, but thank you so much for thanking us for the email or for the interview. All of these are great ideas and a great reason why you want to send a follow-up email. And then another thing is a lot of teachers don't actually end up sending follow-up emails. I personally did thank you cards that did these, or even a thank you letter or email, and I signed it. I actually did thank you cards to each of the people that went to my interview, including the teachers and stuff like that, because I felt like it was important to thank them for their time because oftentimes these teachers and these admin are taking time after school hours to interview you. Maybe they had a sub come in, or maybe they were in the interview while watching their kids. One of many are on their prep. But it's really important to thank them for their time, and it sets a really good impression for them that you're serious and you're professional and you know how to conduct yourself in a professional way. And like I said, not a lot of teachers will do this. Some teachers are just so eager to get their first position that they apply to a bunch of them. They get several callbacks, they do several interviews, and then they forget to follow up. And oftentimes the district might think you forgot about them or vice versa. So make sure you're following up. Now that we talked about when you should send a follow-up email and why you should send up a follow-up email, let's actually conduct and construct the follow-up email layout. So first, I'm going to give you just a general layout base paragraph by paragraph on what I recommend in each section. And then I'm actually going to give you a behind the scenes look to one of my templates inside the Ultimate Teacher Interview bundle. Inside this bundle, I actually have 3 different versions of follow-up emails, but they all generally follow this formula or strategy when it comes to following up. So here it is, the first paragraph. In the first paragraph, you want to thank them for the opportunity to interview with them, and you want to share something you connected with that's going to remind them about your interview. Maybe they were really passionate about, one of the things they were passionate about was lifelong learners, and you can talk about how you were so excited or so relieved or so so excited that they talked about wanting lifelong learners and creating that, and you also talked about that passion, and you're excited about how you both connected on that point. So first paragraph, you want to thank them for the interview and something you connect with to remind them about your interview. Now, when it comes to the wording of that paragraph, here's kind of an example of what that can sound like based off of one of the templates I have in the bundle. I hope this email finds you well. I wanted to express my sincere gratitude for the opportunity to interview for blank position at blank school or district 2 weeks ago, or insert time here. It was a pleasure to learn about something you remember for the interview. Now, again, you want to use the research that you used in prior weeks and incorporate it into this template because you're going to want to tailor it to them and remind and make them feel like this email or this letter or this thank you card, whatever you turn it into, was specifically geared for them. So, with that being said, let's go to paragraph two. Paragraph two, why you are excited to contribute to the school's mission. Every school has a mission, every district has a mission or goal they're trying to achieve. It's typically something that is repeated over the years, maybe tweaked a little bit, but in general, I recommend finding values within those mission that you are naturally aligned with and highlighting those during your interview. Now, I'm not saying to just insert values that you see online because districts can really pick up when you're being disingenuous. So make sure you're actually aligned with it because when you're aligned with something, you're going to be more passionate and excited about it, and that's going to come through on your interview. So, what this can sound like and how you can talk about how you're excited to contribute to the school missions, the wording can sound something like, after reflecting on our conversation, I remain enthusiastic about contributing to the school missions of insert the specific mission or value you're excited of contributing here. In the next paragraph, paragraph three, you're going to talk about how your past experiences aligns with the goals of the district or the school and how it can benefit the school or the district. This can sound like my experience as, enter experience here, and passion for, insert position here, insert value here, align closely with the goals and values of the school district. And you can go further into explaining that if you want. So after you do that, in paragraph four, you're going to acknowledge that they might still be interviewing and reiterate that you're interested in the position. You not only want to thank them for the opportunity, but you just want to naturally say, hey, by the way, if you haven't hired anyone yet, I just wanted to let you know I'm still interested and I thought of you and I thought of our interview and I thought of how excited I was. This can sound like something like, I understand that you may still be in the process of evaluating candidates, and I want to assure you of my continued interest in the position. And then after that, you want to, in paragraph five, you want to thank them one more time and sign off. This can sound like something like, if there are any additional materials or information you require from me at this stage, please do not hesitate to reach out. I am more than happy to provide whatever assistance you may need. Thank you again for considering my application or my interview or my candidacy. I am looking forward to the opportunity to contribute to the academic community at insert the school or the district or the organization name here, and I am eager to hear any updates regarding the status of my candidacy. Sincerely, your name. So that wraps up the 5 different sections I recommend having in your follow-up email. And again, I have more templates and they generally go about the same way and they have the same essence in each paragraph, but that's what I recommend having in each paragraph because in the first paragraphs, you're reminding districts who you are. You're talking about how you're going to be a good fit for them. You're going to remind them of your values and how it aligns to the district and how it's going to help them assist them in achieving their goals and upholding their values. And then you're going to reiterate that, hey, I'm still interested. Thank you again for the opportunity. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. So that wraps up everything about creating a great follow-up email. So, in regards to the different topics that we covered, the first thing we talked about is when to follow up. We talked about following up within 1 to 2 weeks following an interview. And then if it's an application, you can definitely use this process as well. I recommend the same thing. I would do 1 to 2 weeks after the closing date or the end date of when the application is due. And if there isn't really an end date, just 1 to 2 weeks after you apply. Second thing we talked about was why you should follow up, and I talked about how it shows that you are serious, it shows that you are professional and you know how to conduct yourself in a professional way. It shows that you're being considerate, and it sets you apart from other teachers who may not be doing this. The third thing we talked about is how to write a follow-up email. We talked about the different sections I always recommend my teacher clients do in their follow-up emails. The first paragraph, we talked about how you should thank them for the interview, and something that you can connect with and they can connect you with the interview and something maybe you're both passionate about. In the second paragraph, we talked about why you're excited to contribute to the school's mission or values that you're aligned with. In section 3, we talked about how your experience aligns with the goals of the school or the district. In section 4, we talked about how to acknowledge that they might still be interviewing, but reiterating naturally that you're still interested in the position if they have any follow-up questions, to not hesitate to reach out. And then the fifth thing, to thank them again for their consideration in your candidacy and to sign off. So let me know in the comment section or in the DMs if you are going to use this follow-up email. And if you do, let us know how it goes. I'm genuinely interested to hear what results you end up getting. If you want to continue learning about the teacher interview process, the first place I recommend is wherever you're tuning in. I recommend you check that out because I have a ton of content on interviewing and the interview process, everything from how to teach a demo lesson to what to wear. So make sure to check that out. If you want me to answer the top 10 questions I get in regards to how to have a successful interview as a new teacher, I definitely recommend you check out the Ultimate Teacher Interview Guide. This is a guide where I answer those top 10 questions, I give an explanation, but I also link to specific podcasts and YouTube videos that answer that question in further depth and a further explanation. So make sure to check that out if you want all of the interview content I have in one place, or a majority of the interview content I have in one place. If you wanted to take it a step further and you want to grab maybe some of the templates I have, like the follow-up template, I also have 10 cover letter and resume matching templates where, again, it's mostly filled out. All you have to do is fill in what each section is in your particular info. If you want resignation letters, if you want letters of recommendation requests, any of those things, I highly recommend you check out the Ultimate Teacher Interview Bundle. In that bundle, I have all of these things, and something I'm super excited about is this month I am adding my lesson plan. Now, this lesson plan was what I used during my demo lessons, and I got such good praise on this lesson plan that I started using it in my observations in both districts. And in both districts, I've gotten really good feedback from anybody who observes me on how they like that lesson plan. So make sure to go check that out. And if you want to take it a step further, you want my help on the strategies to apply confidently, to only apply to districts that you're aligned with, to really hone in on what you want, to show up to your interview with confidence, to really hone in on your it factor. That's what's going to make you stand apart from your other candidates in a confident, natural way. And you want help doing that all in a single weekend, I highly recommend you check out Land Your Dream Job. Land Your Dream Job is my personal program that I created after helping teachers online, coaching teachers online to get their first teaching position. I wanted to put all of the resources I gave those teachers in a one place, so that way you can sit down and do it at your own pace in a single weekend. What I love about this program is the reality is when we're applying for jobs, we don't have a lot of time. We would much rather be spending our time with our families, our friends, our loved ones, graduating, traveling, getting ready to set up before our classroom. We don't want to spend months on end prepping for an interview. So that's why I put all of my teacher resources or interview resources together into this one program. And again, the goal is to help you prepare for that interview in a single weekend, everything from applying to getting the yes and accepting the job offer. So make sure to check that out if you want that further support and it's something that you feel called to. All right, make sure to drop your questions about interviewing in the comments or send me a DM. I would love to answer any questions you have in regards for interviewing. As always, remember, we are stronger together, and I'll see you in the next one, Teacher Bestie. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I hope that you were able to take away some value that will help you thrive inside and out of the classroom. It would mean the world to me if you could take 5 seconds right now and leave a review on this podcast. And if you found this podcast especially helpful, make sure to take a screenshot of this episode right now and tag me on your socials to let me know you're listening. As always, remember that we are stronger together with all the love in the world. Helena, aka the Present Teacher. See you next time, Teacher Bestie.